Hello everyone. So I thought I'd give you a quick update on the model ship that I've been building, the part 2, that at least some of you, or at least one guy, have been waiting on. Sorry that things have been taking a bit of time. Project Jeep has really been going on for quite a lot longer than I anticipated, and it's taken up most of the free time that I've had. But anyway, it's back to modeling for a little bit at least, and let me catch up with you on how this thing has been going on. I think I mentioned this in my previous video on the ship, that this thing is far larger than anything I ever built, and because of that I didn't really know how to start on it. I started with my regular piece of glue, as I usually do with the Tamiya and Revol glues, but I quickly realized that that's not going to be strong enough to hold this together. We need some fairly thicker bonding than that. So I used a couple of different types of super glue, and they worked a lot better. As you see here, I just put on in quite thick layers and used all sort of tape and they're not called pliers, but whatever these things are, can't remember the English word again, so you just have to kind of bear with me. But I secured it as well as I could and tried to put the entire thing under some pressure, because the parts on this model, they're not brilliant, I'll have to admit that. There are quite a few gaps, and the molds aren't very good. There's very little spalling and flash and things like that. That's not the issue, but a lot of the time the parts don't really fit together. I'll show you a couple of examples later on, but that's why it took some time to fit the whole together, and I wasn't very satisfied with how it looked. As you can see here as well, the parts look good, but they don't really fit, so you had to put glue on and glue a certain part of it together, and then you can't do the entire thing in one go because it fits so badly. So I tried heating some of the parts up for a while, and then, you know, trying to push them into place, and that worked somehow. What you can see here is the deck, and these parts were fairly thin, so I just used my regular glue for these bits, and they have to go in before you glue on the stern gallery and the pieces on the bow. But once all that's in place, those fit fairly nicely, and you have these very practical grooves that you fit in, so the deck rests on top of these, and yeah, the deck's pretty good actually. So this is the first bit that didn't really fit properly. It's the bow, and I had to fill in large pieces here with milliput and glue just to have it look decent, and yeah, this is what it took to keep the whole together. It didn't really fit, and the glue took a long time to cure, so I had to tape the entire ship off and fit in the stern gallery. You can see there it doesn't really fit either. So yeah, I just had to wiggle it about, and somehow it turned out all right. However, what I will say about this is the detailing on it is absolutely beautiful. The textures of the wood fittings and all the details in the stern gallery in particular, absolutely beautiful. And yeah, you can see on both sides on the stern there, yeah, some gaps. But here's another thing that was kind of egregious, the ornament of the bow, and yeah, beautifully detailed as well, but once you turn it, it's bent like a banana. It was, try not to swear there, it looked absolutely fucking awful. This thing is terrible. I haven't put this on the ship yet because I still don't know how to put it on, because it was so egregiously badly warped. But not all parts are awful, as the rudder here, that fits beautifully, and the detailings on that as well are very, very good, and you can put this on the ship model and it swivels around, and yeah, beautiful piece. This thing's fit very nicely, and it's straight, so, you know, much more easy and much more fun to work with. However, I very quickly ran into a problem, and that was if I was to complete all the decks in the ship, I had to first install all the guns, and that meant literally building 108 guns, I believe it was, and all of them contained at least 5 to 6 parts. So yeah, about 700 parts in guns. That took ages, even though I created this sort of assembly line for putting them all together. But believe it or not, you do get tired of building all of these guns one by one. And yeah, I put them in these little plastic containers just so I knew that this gun belongs on this deck in this location and all of that. Because there are quite a lot of guns. However, I do enjoy playing around with them, so making little displays like this, yeah, this maybe didn't take as long, but I just cocked about with it for, yeah, quite a bit. So after assembly and everything, it was time for painting and priming, so I just used the regular Tamiya surface primer, which I use on, well, all of my builds. And it was a very simple paint job. I just painted all the guns in a maybe too light grey, and then a brown cradle for the guns. It wasn't very accurately painted because these things are going to be hidden inside the hull anyway, so but I just thought if you look at that with the correct lighting, you should at least see that it's somehow correctly looking. After that, I took the entire hull out, or not the entire hull, this is just part of it, primed it, and made it ready for painting as well. So I quickly decided to repaint the guns. I didn't really like the very light grey, so yeah, that took twice as much time. But after that was done, it was finally time to install the guns, and this was very easy because there is this line in the deck that you can rest the guns against, so they're all sticking out the exact same length. It was I appreciate this a lot because I wasn't looking forward to having all the guns and then having to measure them one by one whilst installing them. But these lines made it very, very easy, and it looks very uniform and it looks very good. So this was all the work I did with the guns. I realized that I may have to overpaint some of them, at least end up sticking out at some point, as I'm going to continue working on the hull, but I just wanted to paint them before I install the deck that goes above them. Put on a little piece of glue just to make sure that they're staying in place, and yeah, that worked out beautifully. And I mean, come on, it does look fairly good. I was surprised of how much space there is inside a ship like this. I have visited the HMS Victory once, and I had a feeling that was a much more cramped ship. But you know, this model at least looks very, very nice. So I installed the first and second gun deck and all the guns that are supposed to go on there, and then it was time for the deck on top. This was the same kind of issues. It didn't really fit well. I had to force it into place, and it looks all right with the building up of the higher stern castle and everything. It doesn't really line up, but with a bit of persuasion, it looks just fine. So the end result is pretty good, but there are some large gaps that you have to maybe fill or, yeah, sand off a bit of pieces, trim them. But you know, as well as on the other parts, the detailing here is absolutely fantastic, and I'm really looking forward to seeing this thing once it's completed. So this is where we are currently. This is how far the build is at this point. It's not finished, but you know, this is the hull at least, and I thought I just wanted to get this video up and show you that progress is being made, and that there is a part 2 that is genuinely real and is happening. So I hope you like this video so far and you get a bit of an appreciation of what this kit is like. It's a very, very nice and detailed kit. It's a bit of a hassle to work with, as I've stated multiple times, but you know, an experienced modeler, this thing shouldn't be an issue at all. But for a new guy, maybe test it a couple of times before you embark on this ship. It is massive after all. Hope you liked the video. Please leave it a like and subscribe if you did, and I'll see you in part 3 that hopefully won't take more than a year to complete.